In this video, I want to continue to talking about applied stochastic analysis, where in the second lecture, we're going to talk about Markov chains. So previously, we reviewed the basic definition of probability theory, which we're going to use through the entire course, and we introduced the stochastic process. And stochastic process for us is just a collection of random variables x, t, such that for the given probability space, for any choice of the time, which we call like index set, which is an ordered set, that our random variable x of t is going to be a random variable on our probability space. So in this lecture, we're going to dive a little bit deeper, but before that, we will need to review a little bit more of probability. The basic facts that we need to remember that if we have two events, A and B, then these two events are independent if the probability of their intersection is equal to the product of their probabilities. In the same way, we can define independent random variables. Let's assume that we have independent random variable x and y. So in our case, what do we have? We have that our x and y are going to be maps from our sample space into real lines. And inside our real lines, what do we have? We have our parallel sets, BFR. And we're going to say that two random variables are independent. If we're going to take any parallel sets, A and B, then the values or probability of x belonging to A and y belonging to B is going to be equal to the product of their probabilities. Where this term, for example, you can think as it equals to P of y inverse of B. So in other words, we're taking some sets over here and we're pulling them back into our probability space. We have probability measure there, and we're going to compute our products accordingly. Then finally, when we have the notion of independent events, we're going to define the conditional probability. And conditional probability says something along the way, if the event B is going to happen, what is going to be probability that event A is also going to happen after that? And the formula to computing this is the following, that the conditional probability of A and B is equal to the probability of intersection of those two events over the probability of event B. There's a really nice formula and derivations for this. We're not going to cover in this lecture, but overall, I strongly recommend you, like if you haven't seen this before, to dive a little bit deeper. And finally, one of the most useful laws that we're going to use is the law of the total probability. And the idea here, more or less, is the following, that assume this is our sample space. Then we're going to subdivide our sample space into disjoint subsets, BIs. So it's going to be 1, B2, B3, B4. Let's say B5. And then let's say we're going to have event A. And event A is going to look something like this. And in order to compute the probability of the event A, we need to compute the probability of event A intersecting with each of the subdivision of BIs. And that's exactly the law of total probability. We're saying that probability of A equals to the sum of the probabilities of event A intersecting with event BI. And condition again is that each BI needs to be disjoint, and their union gives the entire sample space. As an exercise, you can look at this example number 2, where you will need to apply the law of total probability and conditional probability to answer question number 1 and question number 2. But I'm going to skip this example in this video. And one remark, the bias formula, let's say you want to find the probability of conditional C on T. But let's say you don't know the C intersection T. But what you do know, you know the condition that T happens after C probability. Then and you know each of the probabilities of C and T. Then in this case, the bias formula says that you can compute this probability over here by just reversing the order for T and C and taking the ratio of the probabilities of P of C over P of T. So in this short note, you can see this section on the lecture where we were focusing on defining independent events, independent random variables, conditional probability, the law of total probability, and a small example with a bias formula. After we're done reviewing some of the probability, let's take a look at the previous lecture. Here we were like throwing randomly in our mind, we were trying to create a sequence of heads and tails of the coin if we're going to flip the coin 20 times. This is exactly the sequence that I created. During lecture, what happened? The goal was for us that our brains should have a strong intuition about what randomness is. That's our suspicion. However, we reviewed the warm-up exercise from the previous lecture, where all students wrote their strings of heads and tails on the board, and we had around 10 of them. As consequences, we observed a clear difference between human-generated and computer-generated randomness. And what was interesting, more or less my sequence was similar to all other students' sequences. But what computer gave us something super weird, which I personally got really surprised. And this sequence generated by computer looked something like this. So you have you have a couple of H's, then a lot of T's, then again one H, two T's, and then again like a lot of H's. So computer was giving long sequence of the same variable, and that's something weird. I don't know, like that's what it was really interesting how we assume that we know what randomness is, but sometimes we can have this kind of surprises. Next part of the lecture is actually to talk about stochastic process. So first, remember that last time we learned stochastic process, and we define it as a random variable which depends on two variables, t and omega. If we fix omega in our sample space, then this is just a random variable, and we require that for each t, this is going to be a random variable over our probability space. And the first of stochastic processes that we're going to look at are going to be our Markov chains. Sometimes we're going to write x of t when it's clear that it's a Markov chain. And remember, when we have our random variable x of t, we map from our sample space, and we have the image, which is going to be the state space. And this state space is going to be either discrete, finite, or countable. We're usually going to take that S starts with 0 or S starts with 1. And similar to T, we're also going to start with 0 or with 1, depending on the problem. So what is a Markov chain? A Markov chain is going to be a stochastic process whose probabilities, conditional probabilities, are going to satisfy this rule. So in other words, what is happening? You have your discrete state space, let's say like 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's say at time 0, you're going to start at this state over here. And then what is going to happen at the next time, let's say t equals to 1, you're going to do a jump to one of these states. And depending on which states you're going to do the jump, it depends on the probability. So Markov chain says that where you're going to jump only depends on your current state where you're at right now. So you don't remember all the previous steps. Let's say if you jump into this position from the state 3, this jump from 3 to 1 doesn't affect your future jumps. So that's why for the Markov chain, it's just you start at some discrete system, you start to changing from one state of the system to another state of the system, and the way how you make changes doesn't depend on your previous steps. The quantities, when you change your step from I state into J state during your nth step, this is exactly going to be defined the transition probability for I and J. And you can see this is function which depends on n, because you can have that your probabilities at the nth step either going to change or stay the same. And then what we can do, then we can create the matrix, the nth step transition matrix. For example, in this case, we have 4 steps. And let's say, what do we have? I'm going to have a matrix here of the following 4. I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to assume that I have only these arrows. So I have arrow from 1 to 4, from 3 to 1, and from 1 to 2. So you can see this is like a boring Markov chain, because what is going to happen? When I'm going to jump from 1 to 2, or when I'm going to be at state 1, I can either jump from 1 to 2 or from 1 to 4. And I'm going to assume that I have equal probability. So probability of jumping there is 1/2. So that's why 1 stays at 1, 0, 1 goes to 2 is going to be 1/2, 1 goes to 3 is 0, 1 goes to 4, 1/2. Then when I'm going to be at position 2 is going to be stationary, so I'm going to stay there. When I'm going to be at position 3, with probability 1, I will jump to state 1, and then I will, there is no other changes of state. And when I'm at position 4, there's also no changes. So you can see P matrix Pn in our case is going to be the same for all n, and it looks like this. A couple of things about this matrix. First, we are required that all of the entries are non-negative, and the sum of all of the rows are going to be equal to 1. And the reason why is you want them to be non-negative because they represent the probabilities. And probability is either 0 or a positive number. And also the sum of all rows needs to be equal to 1 because you want to have the total probability of changing your current state to some other state, total needs to sum to 1. So that's why in this case, you can see that we have all zeros here. So me, in order to change this, what I will do, I will add this self-reference from 4 jump to 4, 2 jumps to 2. So in this case, I will then update it that 2 jumps to 2 and 4 jumps to 4. So now our matrix P of n satisfies these conditions over here. And any matrix which satisfy these conditions are going to be a stochastic matrix. As I said before, in the case when P of n doesn't depend on n, so it means for every step we're going to have the same probability transition matrix, then such system of the Markov chain is called time homogeneous. Otherwise, it's time inhomogeneous. And this is like something similar that in terms of probabilities, the probability to change your state from ith to jth during your nth step, it's the same if you will just start at your position I and change to your position j during your first step. That's why probability doesn't depend on a time during which you make your step. Finally, let's do a couple of examples. The first one example that flipping a coin, a physical coin, is going to be a little bit biased and is going to have the following transition matrix, where your rows are indexed by heads and tails and columns are indexed by heads and tails. So that means if you start with heads, the probability to get heads again is slightly higher than to get tails. And there is entire paper about this, which is super interesting. And I totally recommend you to check it out. I don't remember the name, but I think I can mention it below under the description of this video. The other one is you're going to take the integers. So we have 0, 1, 2, etc., -1, -2. And what we're going to start to do, to jump either to the left or to the right. And we're going to jump to the right with probability p and to the left with probability 1 minus p. Then our random variable is going to be the sum of the jumps ci, when we're going to add 1 if we jump to the right with probability p and -1 to the left with probability 1 minus p. And our transition, one-step transition probabilities are going to be this one, exactly. So if you jump to the right, you will have p. You jump to the left, you will have 1 minus p. And all other states are going to be 0. Also, we can do Markov chains on the graphs. So the first thing, we're going to have undirected graph. And for this undirected graph, you can see that our transition matrix is going to be equal to this. So for example, for the third row, it means I am in state 3, and I can either go to state 1, to state 2. I cannot stay in state 3, or I go to state 4. So that's why I have equal probability to go each of the states. And I will have that I can assign for each edge my probability to go to another state with a number 1/3. We can generalize this undirected graph either to add directions or to make them weighted. And one of the examples, let's say I have this state. I have 1, 2, 3, and weights are going to be 1, 2, 3. Then can you have a second and fill in this transition matrix as a small exercise right now? So 1 is going to be 0. The total weight of these edges is 4. So that's why 1 goes to 2 with probability 1/4, and 1 goes to 3 with probability 3/4. The same for 2. The total weight is 3. So 2 stays at 2 is 0. 2 goes to 1 with 1/2, so 1/3, and goes to 3 with 2/3. And finally, the last one, 3 is 0, and 3 goes to 1 with 3/5, and 3 goes to 2 with 2/5. And that's my transition matrix. And the final example, we're going to consider like autoregressive model. In this case, we're going to have two initial states, y1 and y0. And the next state is going to depend on alpha1 plus yn minus 1 plus alpha2 yn minus 2 plus wn, where wn is some integer valued noise sequence. And the question is yn is Markov chain in this case? And the answer is no, because the next step depends on the two previous steps. However, what we can do, we can make it as a Markov of order 2. And what do I mean by order 2? We can rewrite this as a column vector. And if we're going to rewrite this as a column vector, you can check that this system over here can be rewritten as this system, as this linear system, where A is going to be this matrix, and wn plus 1 bar is going to be this column vector. And in this case, we redefined our Markov chain from yn to xn, and xn is going to be a Markov chain which jump in some sense in a state space, which are going to be integer squares, which is countable. So we still satisfy our definition over here. A short summary of this lecture. The main idea was to review conditional probabilities and the law of total probability. We're going to use it a lot to prove a lot of statements regarding Markov chains. And also we did the first examples of the stochastic process, which is we define. Then we provide a concrete example of a stochastic process and define a Markov chain. We associated with a given Markov chain a transition matrix. We said that we have time homogeneous and time inhomogeneous systems. And then we provided 3 examples: flipping the coin, random walk on a graph. Sorry, the 4th example, autoregressive model. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.